Welcome to the Q1 Buck Poll. I'm Tim Hart with Mike Big Buck Hoffner. Well, Big Buck has been out and about, and are you seeing any bucks right now?
I am seeing deer. Actually, I've seen quite a few deer. We're into that rut phase. I mean, right here at the where it's going to hit full bore probably within the next week, and I've been seeing deer chasing all over the place. Actually, our students have had a number of kids bring in deer that they've shot this past week, and they're wondering why I haven't done my job.
Come on, Mr. Administrator, get on it.
I know, they're showing me up again, but I'm waiting for one particular deer.
Okay, sure. Unless I go out there with the camera, you better shoot what comes up. No. Today we have the DNR's Brent Rudolph with us. He's going to talk about the 2012 Deer Management Plan. And you know, in 2013, it definitely is going to change.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, when you talk about the Grand Master Management Plan, you know, we both know it's no secret. I've been all over the place. I was in Lansing yesterday, talked to a number of people that live from all over the portions of the state of Michigan, and everybody that saw me knows I love deer hunting, and we talked EHD. Everybody want to know the impact on this season.
We also are going to be cooking up something delicious, something that you're probably not used to cooking up. We're going to be at the Soaring Eagle with executive chef Chris Nadobny, and he is going to be making up some sauteed venison heart with red flannel hash.
Well, that sounds intriguing, Tim.
It was intriguing. He said, here's what we're going to do. Sauteed venison heart, and I went, okay,
sure.
how are we going to do this? He cut it all up and showed it, and I was like, well, that looks all right.
Well, you know, you talk to a lot of people. There are people that can't stand liver and things like that, but for some people, it's a delicacy.
Exactly. We also have Woods and Waters' Tom Campbell. He's the editor. He's going to be talking about the November edition, so what's in there so far as tips on deer hunting. That's what they're focusing on in the month of November. And then we have Tony LaPratte. He's with Ultimate Land Management and the Whitetail Boot Camp. He's going to be talking about paying attention to the wind.
And I'll tell you what, that's probably the one keen sense that the deer does better than anything else. It can smell.
That's exactly right. And we have bucks, big bucks on today's show. So stay with us. We got all that and more right here on the Q1 Buck Poll.
The Q1 Buck Poll is sponsored by these participating businesses who support the great outdoors in Michigan.
Back here on the Q1 Buck Poll, well, each and every week we like to feature bucks from around the state. You can also see all of the deer online at q1buckpoll.com. And one of Big Buck Hoffner's main jobs on the show is what? Telling you the books.
I want to announce.
I know you're trying to get. Hey, hang on, I'm telling you. Your
I'll
turn.
get him in here, buddy. Let's start out with Philip Sharp from Flushing, Michigan. Shot an 8-pointer. His score was 43. Then we had Colin Waldron from East Leroy bring in a 10-pointer. The score was 44. James Springer from Hickory Corners with an 11-pointer. The score 44.5. And finally, Hannah Underhill from Blanchard, Michigan, 11-pointer. The score 44.75.
Now we're going to talk to Brent Rudolph with the DNR about the 2012 Deer Management Plan. Well, time now to talk about the 2012 Deer Management Plan. With us today in our DNR segment, we've got Brent Rudolph. He is the Deer and Elk Program Leader here with the DNR. Brent, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Now, we've talked over the years, you know, about the different plans that are out there, people having input. You know, what does the Deer Management Plan look like for this year?
Well, the key thing is, you know, we developed this plan a couple years back to try and guide more long-term strategic direction for deer management in Michigan. So some of the key things we've been doing is putting together deer advisory teams that we committed to. So we have one in each region for the Upper Peninsula, Northern Lower Peninsula, and Southern Lower Peninsula. And then starting to meet with those folks on a regular basis to be able to get what we've called just, you know, very informed and engaged input into deer management, so we can go from kind of the broad things that this covers down to more specifics on the ground.
What's the recent trends when it comes to people out there hunting?
Well, you know, we've seen the last few years, we've seen numbers in archery and in muzzleloader seasons actually increase or at least stabilize a little bit. So we've got now back up over 300,000 archers again, around 200,000 or so folks in muzzleloader season. Where we still see a decline is in firearm participation. So that's still pushing overall. We've lost about 1% per year since like about the late 90s. But we're encouraged by seeing within some of these other seasons some of that stabilization and even increase, and hope we can kind of flip that over into overall participation.
So you talk to people, you know, the deer advisory teams, but how do you get a real gauge on the number of deer? Because, you know, Michigan is not like a few of the other states that, you know, mandatory, you got to call in your deer. You got to check it in with the DNR. We don't do that. So, I mean, how do you get your data to say, well, there's more deer down in the southern lower or up in northern?
I'd say there's kind of three key things we look at. Okay, first of all, we estimate harvest in Michigan with a mail survey, so that goes out to about 50,000 hunters every year, and that gives us not only the figures on the kill each year, but some of those participation numbers, like I told you. Not just how many people bought a license, but how many then actually went out and hunted. So the mail survey is a big part. Second is we do have voluntary deer check, but we actually check about the same or higher proportion of all of our deer that are taken than a lot of states that have mandatory. Now what I mean is a check is when you're actually aging it and getting data
it in, as opposed to phoning it in saying, here's what I shot.
Right, so we go look at that for information on the age composition, on the condition of deer, looking at antler development and things that are actually measurable, tangible things that we can use to track, you know, trends over time. We've got a pretty good set of data there. Now we'd really like to get more folks involved. We'll be working on getting more folks involved into setting up cooperative check stations and things.
We'd like them to bring them to the Q1 Buck Bowl because, you know, we get a lot of data that also can help when they were taken and sometimes the aging and all that type of thing too.
And then the third thing is there's a lot of other things that we can use to track deer numbers out there. You know, just looking at observations from hunters, you know, satisfaction rates in different places, crop damage complaints. You know, some of those things are not necessarily strictly driven by deer numbers. Sometimes there's other conditions that affect those. But we've really tried to broaden the program to say those are all things we have to manage deer for, so those are all things that we need to be measuring and evaluating over time.
And if people have any questions, they can give you guys a call at any time or go on the website where there's a lot of information on the DNR website.
Yeah, we consolidate. If you go to michigan.gov/deer, you know, get all the information on management plans. What are the license applications open right now and so forth.
All right, Brent, thanks for being with us again.
All right, thanks a lot.
Stay tuned. When we come back, we've got sauteed venison heart with red flannel hash from the Soaring Eagle Casino's executive chef, Chris Nadabny. More after this. Time now for our sponsor spotlight here on the Q1 Buck Poll. Tim Hart with Randy Van Dam. Randy, how are you today?
Good, Tim. Yourself?
I'm doing great. Wonderful. Here in Kalamazoo, and I tell you what, we're going to talk about some long guns and some handguns here at DNR Sports Center. And Randy, let's start with some of the single shots. You've got some you know, guns here that are really becoming the popular models.
Oh yeah, there's some of these single shot and bolt action models are kind of becoming the norm now. They're long range. The new Sabbats that we got to shoot, you know, guys are shooting 200 yards with them, scoping them up and letting them fly. You know, it's really a trend that we're seeing, and we carry all the H&R models. They have thumb hole type stocks, they have regular stocks, they got the heavy barrels, and Savage bolt action, kind of the same thing. They play on the accuracy and of the bolt action rifle, being the most accurate type of rifle. Well, and you know, now they're doing it for shotgun, and they make it in camo stock. It's a real popular thing.
All right, and what's the next gun we're going to take a look at?
This is old tried and true trusty Mossberg right here. I think it's the best value in the market right now for guns. You know, they come drilled and tapped. A lot of them are ported up here so they kick a lot less. You can get them camo, you can get them regular, you can get them with scope mounts, rifle mounts, combos. You can get it any way you want. It's really a good, accurate gun. Now
let's talk about some of the handguns here. I know you got a great selection of handguns, a couple of SIGs here.
We carry a full variety. I got this out here because it's a unique concept that's real good. It's a frame and a full gun, and the guts interchange. So when you buy it, it's called the SIG twosome. This one's a 9mm, but you get two guns in one. So you can kind of interchange it back and forth in one unit. It's a neat concept, and they're real reasonable. We have a great deal on them going right now. We bought a bunch of them.
And if you have any questions about you know, license or anything like that, I know there's a number of classes you guys hold here, CPL classes.
Yeah, we do CPL classes at least once a month type thing, and we'll probably around deer season knock it off just a little bit because we're all going to be out in the woods, but we'll be hot and heavy all winter long on those. So.
All right, talking guns here at DNR Sports Center in Kalamazoo. Randy, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Tim.
Before we cook up some sauteed venison heart, we've got more deer here on the Q1 Buck Poll. Again, I remind you, go online, q1buckpoll.com. You can see all of the deer that have registered in the contest.
Okay, let's start out with Justin Southern from Charlotte with a 9-pointer. The score 45 1/4. Vince Braun from Jackson, Michigan brings in an 8-pointer. The score 45.63. And Brian Cantoris from Burton, Michigan, 10-pointer. The score is 48.
And everybody who has entered into the contest has a chance to win that Yamaha Grizzly 350 ATV. We've got muzzle loaders, we've got crossbows, we've got tree stands. We got a lot of prizes, so tell your friends and neighbors and family, get registered today. Now, off to the Soaring Eagle. Let's cook up some sauteed venison heart. We're at the Soaring Eagle Casino with the executive chef, Chris Nadobny. Chris, welcome to the Buck Poll.
Thank you, Tim. Nice seeing you again.
Oh, I tell you what, every time I'm here, we're always cooking up something special. And today, I don't think I've ever had anything like we're going to make today. What is it?
Okay. We are going to do a venison heart and red flannel hash. Venison heart is a great piece of meat. It's an underutilized piece of meat, and you don't see it often on either TV shows, magazines, or other people doing it, so I thought it would be an interesting tweak to doing something during the middle of the deer season.
What's the first step in breaking this down?
First thing we're going to do is we're going to take all this fat on the outside, trim that off.
And really, there's not much there.
There's not much there. It's not very palatable. You're not going to want to eat it. It's almost like eating a tallow. You get a kind of the mouthfeel of that. And what we'll do is we'll find the chambers of that heart and we'll start breaking it apart by the chamber. All you do is, it's like following the seams. So we're going to break that apart. See how that comes apart just like that?
Yep.
We're going to keep breaking that down. We're going to find that. We got our one right there. We're going to find that other chamber. Cut right down into it. And just keep following it. It'll come apart just like a puzzle.
And it's really much simpler than what people might think, because once you are starting to cut there, you can really see the chambers. Once you start
breaking into the chambers, you can just follow it, follow the seams on that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to trim off all of this silver skin, all this fat. It's not palatable. You don't want to eat it. It'll, you know, a lot of times you get complaints about venison being tough or heart being tough. Part of that process is, just like every other piece of venison, it's a lean piece of meat. You want to age it. I age mine 38 degrees, 7 to 10 days in my refrigerator, keeping it moist the whole time, make sure it's not drying out. It helps make it a tender piece of meat. Trimming all this internal and external sinew off the top of it also assists in that. Okay. So we're just going to take it, trim it out. And as far as the outside, all we're going to do, we're going to fillet it just like you would a fish. Okay. It's that easy. Take it, run your knife parallel to your cutting board.
So really what we're creating is really thin pieces of meat here.
Thin fillets, if you will.
Okay.
Yep, right there.
Perfect.
Perfect. Beautiful piece of meat, beautiful piece of tenderloin.
And then when you take a heart like this, basically you're just, separating it out and putting it in the fridge or the freezer or something like that.
One of the big things you want to do is, after you get done cleaning your deer, you want to bring that heart into the house, and you're going to want to flush out all of the ventricles, the chambers, because blood clots, you take a deer through the lungs, the heart, there's going to be blood clots in there. You want to wash that out. That'll lend an off, gamey flavor, if you will, to that venison. So you want to make sure you rinse that very well, get all those blood clots off, then thoroughly dry it. Moisture is not your friend as you're aging this. It helps create bacteria, it promotes bacteria growth. So you want to make sure you rinse it out very well, then you want to make sure that you dry it well before you age it.
Okay.
And there you go. 3-4 minutes of quick trimming, you're ready to go. Now all we'll do is we'll cut this up into about 1/4 inch cubes. That'll end up going into our hash.
All right, Chris, what are we going to do right here on the stove?
All right, what we're going to get going now is we're going to get that venison hash after we've cleaned up that heart. We got some whole butter. Put about 1 ounce in there. Make sure your pan's hot. When that gets good and foamy, then we're going to want to add about 3 ounces of green bell pepper, about 3 ounces of Spanish onion. We're going to season those. We're going to saute those till they're just translucent, probably about a minute, minute and a half. We're going to add 4 ounces of blanched russet potato, 2 ounces of turnip rutabaga, root vegetable of your choice. 2 ounces of roasted red beet. I like to roast my red beets before I put them in there. It concentrates the sugars, caramelizes them a little bit, gives them a bunch of additional flavor. So what we want to do, we've got about a cup of water. To that, we're going to add about a teaspoon of vinegar. Vinegar helps set set the proteins, so you don't have a runny egg all over the place, so egg white set. So we're going to add that to our water. The water is at barely a simmer. You don't want to boil it. That boiling action will break up your eggs, and you'll end up with watery scrambled eggs, if you will. So we've added a little bit of vinegar to that. We're going to crack our egg very gingerly into there. See how those egg whites stay together?
Stay together.
Those will take about 3 to 4 minutes. Any more than that, with this dish, you'd like, if you like your egg yolks a little bit softer, 3 to 4 minutes, and when you break it open, you almost have an additional sauce right to that product.
Okay. All right, so we've been caramelizing for about 3 minutes or so.
Yeah, caramelizing the root vegetables about 3 to 4 minutes. We're getting a good crust formed on one side. We've got our eggs going right now. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get this venison cooking in a separate pan. We want to make sure we keep this about medium to medium rare. You start overcooking it and it becomes tough and chewy, and that's sometimes you get those gamey off flavors. Very important.
So kind of quick to the point.
Very
now,
quick to the point.
Is that pan totally ready to roll?
This is ready to roll. We're going to get some butter in there. It's going to get foamy real quick. We're going to add our venison, saute it real quick, add it to our hash, finish this dish. We got a little bit of brown to that. We're going to add our venison. So we're going to season it real well. Everything needs to be seasoned.
And what are you seasoning with? Just some
salt? A little bit of salt and fresh cracked black pepper. Okay, we got a good sear on one side of this. See how that's all seared, nice brown? Let that sit for about 30 more seconds. We're going to add it to it, fold it all in together, and we'll start our plating.
All right, now we're going to start the plating.
We're going to start plating. We'll get about 6, depending on the appetite of the guys you're feeding, about 6 to 8 ounces of that hash on there. We're going to get some, since I'm in the restaurant business, we have to make it look pretty.
You gotta make it look good.
Make pretty, okay. We've got our eggs, which we've poached just soft, 3 to 4 minutes. Make sure they're drained well, right on top.
Looking good, man, looking good.
Beautiful. We've got a little bit of whole grain mustard hollandaise, which you can find right in the recipe, right over top. Yep, once again, want to make sure we look nice for a restaurant. A little bit of chopped parsley, a little bit more color. And there we go. We've got
it's like an artist at work here, isn't it?
We've got a venison heart and red flannel hash. Great winter dish, great way to utilize the underutilized muscle.
Well, I will tell you, I never thought that I would be eating some sauteed venison heart. I went home, told my wife, said, honey, guess what I ate today? And she said, no way. I said, way.
You're a brave man.
Oh, it was very good. It was very good. And all the recipes, I think it all comes down to is how you cook them up, how you prep them, how you prepare them, what y'all put with it, and it was very delicious. So,
well, trust me, they've got the title of chef for a reason. They know what they're doing, and they cook a fine meal.
Stay with us when we come back. We're going to be talking to Woods & Water's Tom Campbell. We also have Tony LaPratte talking about paying attention to the wind. You're watching the Q1 Buck Poll. One of our great partners on the Q1 Buck Poll is Woods & Water News. Tom Campbell, the editor, he's going to be talking about what's coming up in the November edition. But first, we got some more bucks here to feature on the Q1 Buck Poll.
That's right, Tim. Let's start out with Scott Bishop from Chesaning, Michigan, bringing in an 11-pointer, the score 48 1/4. Richard Judkins from Ann Arbor with an 11-pointer, the score 48 3/4. And finally, John Tomasic from Jackson, Michigan, bringing in a 10-pointer. Nice, respectable score of 49.38.
Here's Tom Campbell from Woods & Water talking about the November edition.
Our November issues, which is out on the shelf right now, and we've got one great thing about Woods & Water News. We cover a variety of topics, but of course, right now deer season, and we've got some great stuff in there on deer hunting, all kinds of where-to, how-tos, how to hunt the rut, some different ideas. We got Fred Abbas did a real unique story in the November issue on buck factories and some of the what we might coin oddball tactics that him and his son use that work. So it's amazing, you know, stories like that. But of course, the other big issue is Betty Saunders did a real nice piece on answering a lot of the wolf questions and the wolf rumors going around, and where we headed with the wolf management in the state, and did an excellent job of covering those things. And Richard Smith always has informative things, and he followed up with a part he did earlier, and that was on fawn predation up in the UP, a study that's been ongoing, and the results of that. And so that's pretty amazing.
And you can pick up the November edition at your newsstand. Any of your hunting shops have it, so check it out, Woods and Water News. Well, now it's time to talk about how you pay attention to the wind. Here's Tony LaPratte from Ultimate Land Management and the Whitetail Boot Camp.
Let's talk wind for a minute. It amazes me how many deer hunters in Michigan already know where they're going to set on November 15th. Guys like me that are consistent year in and year out, we do not know where we're going to set until November 14th in the evening. I'm watching the weather right up to the last minute. I need to know exactly which way the wind's blowing. Is it going to change halfway through the day on the 15th? You have to use the wind as your foundation. Guys, these big bucks never second guess their noses. Never. Now, you have to also understand your inner and exits. Guys, when you're going in the morning, you can't let your scent be blowing out to where the deer are feeding. And in the evening, you can't be letting it blow into a bedding area, etc. So you have to be paying attention to the wind in all these different ways. You have to think about it. You know, if you've been paying attention to the wind in the last 8 years, that we've been getting more northeast and east winds instead of the traditional southwest and west winds here in Michigan. So what you need to start doing is looking at your stand approach and your stands, and if you play the wind and pay attention to it, you will score more. I'm Tony LaPratte, and that's the tip of the week for the Q1 buck pole.
All right, check online. I'm going to be out and about with the camera at a variety of locations, including Ray C's Extreme, Richardson's Meat Processors. I'm going to be up at the Country Smokehouse coming up. So lots of different places. Check online and you'll find out where I will be with the camera. I'd love to meet you. For Mike Big Buck Hoffner, I'm Tim Hart. Whenever you're out in the woods, stay safe.
You know, it creeps me out too. Folks, I just want to tell you that I was told I had to put some makeup on today. I was expecting somebody really nice to come put it on, and Tim does the job for me. Pretty sickening, isn't it?
I'm multi-talented. Multi-talented. Well, I tell you right now.
I'm looking good?
No.